ask only that the following persons be permitted to speak: residents of the town of Lewisboro or the Katona-Lewisboro School District, owners of property in the town of Lewisboro, employees of the town of Lewisboro. If you want to speak at the public hearing or make a public comment, please raise your hand at the appropriate time. To do that, if you are on Zoom, put your cursor at the bottom of the window and you should see an image of people labeled participants. Click on that to get a panel on the right-hand side with icons at the bottom. You can then click Raise Hand. Participants who have raised their hand will show up on the host screen in the order that they raised their hand. The host will then unmute you and tell you that you have the floor. You may also have to unmute yourself if your microphone isn't active. We are also asking that your video be off during the duration of the meeting and only turned on when invited to speak. If you have dialed in on a phone, you can raise your hand to indicate you want to talk by pressing *9. We will ask people to give their name and which hamlet they live in upon entering, and to keep their comments to 2 minutes. Our town clerk will be keeping time, and you will hear a timer at the end of the 2 minutes. If someone is disrespectful or uses profanity at this meeting, they will be asked to leave the virtual meeting, just as they would be asked to leave a physical meeting. Please remember that your camera is on, and profanity will not be tolerated in any form, including gestures and acronyms. We also ask that your comments be limited to the issues and not be attacks on individuals. Now, please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to open a public hearing on wood-fired boilers, or legislation regarding wood-fired boilers.
Wood-burning boilers.
Does anybody wish to speak?
I have a couple hands up, Peter. I'm going to go in order as they come on my screen. Remember, you have 2 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second warning. And please state your name and hamlet. Marcia Cutler, asking you to unmute, please.
Hi, is my camera on?
No, we're not having cameras on.
No cameras.
So just,
Okay,
yeah,
no
yeah, we
problem.
can hear you and you
Thank
have
you.
2 minutes. Yeah.
So, hi, my name is Marcia Cutler. I'm a resident of South Salem, and I am opposed to the use of outdoor wood boilers in our town. So my main concern are the emissions produced from these units. According to a study performed by the Northeast States for Coordinated Air Use Management, outdoor wood boilers do not use catalytic or non-catalytic emission control devices that other residential wood burning devices such as wood stoves commonly use. And as a result, this creates increased toxic and particulate emissions. Smoke from outdoor wood boilers contains carbon monoxide, nitrogen and sulfur oxides, VOCs, and chlorinated dioxins, which the NIH has determined are human carcinogens. The large firebox design of an outdoor wood boiler can cause a user to burn a variety of inappropriate materials that could not be burned in a wood stove or a fireplace. Yet even if used properly, overall emissions from outdoor wood boilers, according to the study, are 22 to 40 times greater than EPA certified wood stoves. And because outdoor wood boilers have short chimney heights and are located close to homes, there's a greater potential for emissions to create a health hazard for those living near the unit. 8 of our neighboring towns have banned the use of outdoor wood boilers, and these units should not be permitted in residential neighborhoods where their noxious fumes are detrimental to the environment and to neighbors' health. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. Next, I'm inviting Robert Whitaker. Robert, I'm asking you to unmute and you have 2 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yes, I'm Robert Whitaker. I live in Lewisboro. Just in the last week, smoke detectors in residents' backyards have detected levels of smoke in the quote, health emergency range, night after night. Health emergency. It is a health emergency for people who are inhaling that smoke, and they are inhaling it night after night. The pungent odor chases back people inside their houses, but even inside you can smell it. There's no escape. If it was just one person, that would be enough. If that one person was your husband or wife or child, and it was their life in danger, you would do whatever you could to prevent it. But this isn't just one person. I personally know 15 people, 15 who are impacted by the smoke, and there are more. People are being seriously harmed every day, and for this to continue is just insane. The sunset or grace period to convert should be no longer than 6 months, max. You know that 6 months is more than enough time for anyone to make the conversion from wood to something else, absent a major intervening factor. If the boiler user gives a justifiable reason why it's impossible to comply within that time, that 6 months, then the law can allow for a reasonably brief extension on good cause shown. But given the potential harm that could result, granting an extension should require a solid, I did everything I could explanation to justify an extension. Treating those being harmed as if they are your own family is not only the moral thing to do, but it's what the oath you took is all about. I know some of you, and I know you're good people, but that means nothing if you don't act out of that goodness. Ultimately, how we act is what defines us, and I know that you know that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robert. Next, I'm asking Neil Cutler to unmute.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Neil Cutler. I'm a resident of South Salem. I'm speaking today against the use of outdoor wood boilers. I did a little research about these devices and was surprised at how much information there is about how toxic these are to the environment and to people's health. I came across a New York State Department of Health Bureau of Toxic Substance Assessment report on these outdoor wood boilers, or OWBs, as they seem to be called. The findings included a lot of shocking things, including the following. The OWBs are a substantial source of wood smoke and associated fine particulates. Those particulates are measured as less than 2.5 microns. The particulate emissions from one OWB are equivalent to the emissions from 205 oil furnaces or 8,000 natural gas furnaces. One OWB can emit 10 to 14 pounds of fine particulate matter when heating a 2,500 square foot home for one winter day. The EPA has determined that much of the health threat from wood smoke is from the fine particles. In some counties in New York where OWBs are commonly in use, the OWBs are responsible for 90% of the fine particles in the air. The report concluded that, quote, given the well-established adverse respiratory and cardiovascular health effects of PM 2.5 exposure, the adverse quality of life and odor issues associated with excessive smoke exposure, efforts to reduce the public's exposure to OWB smoke are warranted, end quote. There are many better options to produce heat and hot water for our homes that are less detrimental to our health and the environment. Let's take steps to improve the health of our citizens and the quality of our air. I ask that OWBs not be allowed in Lewisboro. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. I'm asking Harold Rosenbaum to unmute.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I live in South Salem and I was not planning on talking tonight. I've done no research, but mine's just a personal story, which I won't take 2 minutes of your time. But, my wife has an upper respiratory condition from childhood, living in 2 rooms with smokers, with 11 people. So she has an inhaler, I should say, at her side when she sleeps. And she has, every few weeks, she gasps for breath, not just generally speaking. And we have to give her an inhaler. She loves having the window open a bit at night. It helps. We have a humidifier, but it also helps her to breathe. And most nights, maybe 50% of nights over the last 2 months, I opened the window a crack and she would say, I smell smoke or something. And so I'd have to close the window, which is not helpful to her health. So I just wanted to weigh in against the OWBs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Harold.
You're welcome.
And next I'm asking Jim and Han to unmute.
Hi, Jim and Han, South Salem. I want to say, I'm really moved by what community members are saying here. And there is a lot more science. And I think that thinking about ways to work on our environment, ways to improve all our health and make sure that people aren't getting sick seems like something we should just do. So I just want to support all the people here who are asking to not have OWBs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jimin. Next, I'm asking Stacy Zuck to unmute.
Hi.
Hi, Stacy. You have 2 minutes.
Can I show a video?
You've got 2 minutes.
I'll only take one.
Joel, can you share the screen?
Are you sharing my screen?
Oh, Joel has to make you a co-host.
Oh.
Joel. Joel? Could you make Stacy a co-host so she could share her screen?
Yes.
Thank you. She's set?
Can you see my screen or no?
No. Yeah.
Oh, do you need to share?
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, share the screen. Click share. Yeah, and
I
then
don't have that one.
yeah, and you're on it, so just click share. Fine.
Okay. Thanks. Can you see the
Okay.
screen?
Yeah, good.
Yes, we can. So you have
Okay.
2 minutes.
Okay. I just wanted to show people that I'm the one that is a neighbor. And I've been living this for about 5 years. I first got to be familiar with the outdoor wood boiler, but in the past year, it's been especially bad. I bought, at the recommendation of the DEC, an air monitor. This is the chart for the air monitor. It's color-coded green from good all the way to hazardous maroon. Sarah, I can't click this.
Oh.
Sorry,
Click
having a
on
little
this button.
technical difficulties here.
And I just want to say, I'm the daughter here, and I actually lived in Seoul, Korea for a year. And the monitor is double the amount it is on bad days in Korea, where everyone has to wear masks. And a notice comes to everyone's phones with a skull on it. So the level it has gone here is absolutely more than a nuisance.
Thanks, Sarah. So when I first got the monitor last month, I watched the night go up from 97 to 117 to 165. To give you perspective, you can zoom out on this map. All of these people own, or companies and schools own, these monitors. And this map goes from Massachusetts all the way to New Jersey, out to Pennsylvania. You can see all the different ratings based on color. And there I am at 152, our town of Lewisboro at 152, which was nothing compared to Saturday night when it reached 485. And then last night at 368. These are hazardous levels. This was my morning this morning, which I was so upset about last night. I posted this on Facebook. You can see all of the smoke hovering over all of these houses on Todd Road. And then just in a matter of time, I watched the smoke float up over Mount Holly area. Sometimes it goes up Mount Holly, sometimes it goes down Todd, sometimes it goes to the east. I have a good day when I know that the wind's blowing east. And I leave you and the town board with this quote: in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The best thing is the worst. The worst thing is the wrong thing, we're supposed to say, but the worst thing you can do is nothing. And I feel that the town board has made attempts to help, but it's been since August. And I'm really pleading that we make a decision and don't do nothing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stacy.
I'll stop on that.
Okay. Next, I'm asking Ruth Host to unmute.
Hi,
Ruth?
can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Ruth Post. I live in Katona, in Lewisboro, on the Katona side, not too far from where Stacy Zook was just talking about. I don't want to reiterate everything that's been said by everybody else, but I just wanted to throw my support into the mix of people that are against the OWBs. I do live near the home that I think most people are talking about tonight, to the extent that I walk my dog in that area. And there are mornings, I do it every day down past that property. And there are mornings where the smell is so strong that will literally just turn and walk in a different direction just because of the smoke coming from that property. So I ask the board to vote tonight to ban the OWBs and to give as short a sunset period as possible, especially given the information that I have. I'm not 100% sure that it's accurate, but my understanding is that this resident already has an oil burner and has just refused to use it because he's using the OWB to save money. Since he already has an oil burner, I would say that sunset period should be as short as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Next, I'm asking Jody PS, if you could state your last name when I ask you to unmute, please. Jody?
Sure. My name is Jody Shearer, and I live in Goldens Bridge on Wild Oaks Road. I just want to say that I don't live near this neighborhood, but I've been there a lot, and I know what the smoke is doing to the whole environment. I don't think it's safe for anybody to be breathing in this air on a regular basis, especially when I see those values that Stacy's seeing on her monitor. That's crazy for a town like Lewisboro. I mean, we live up here in the country because we value fresh air and nature, and this is the kind of environment people in that area have to be subjected to every single day. I don't think outdoor wood boilers should be allowed in Lewisboro, and I think that the sunset period should be much less than 2 years. I also think that anybody who has been shown to be burning cardboard or green wood and not seasoned wood should should lose their ability to be able to use these burners, because if you can't follow the rules and you can't burn what is the most healthy source of fuel for these oil burners, you should lose the privilege of being able to use them at all. That's my opinion.
All right, thank you, Jody.
I'd like to propose that We-
It appears nobody, there's one more hand. Peter Dean Travelino, I'm asking you to unmute.
Am I there? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can, Dean. We've got 2
Watching,
minutes.
as usual, I didn't intend to comment, but the evidence there is pretty. The evidence there is pretty overwhelming. The situation looks terrible to me. I just have 2 questions about it. I really feel bad for the people, but just 2 questions. One, hearing everybody, it sounds like this is a nuisance situation, a regular common law nuisance that these neighbors have compelling evidence that they should go to court with. I'm not sure it's the kind of thing that should be done as a act of the legislature. The other question, which I know nothing about, I just raise it, but I don't know anything about the answers, is I know that the EPA, I do know that they have an extensive list of boilers and furnaces that are legal. So I wonder, is in the case of furnaces, is this preempted by state law in any way? And in the case of indoor heating burners, which I think some people have been commenting in social media that we should do that, ban that also, is this going to conflict with some of the federal law? But those are my just questions. Otherwise, I'm not going to say anything about the fact that the situation looks horrendous.
All right, thank you, Dean. All right, and that's it.
I'd like to propose that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'd like to point out, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to point out a few things about the law we're proposing. First of all, if we pass it, no outdoor wood burner boilers can be operated after March the 31st, and they have to stay out of commission until October 31st. Second, the permitted fuel, because people have talked about this, is only seasoned firewood. If anybody burns anything other than seasoned firewood and somebody takes pictures or something of it, then they will be banned from ever using it again. There are a series of things which people can use to stop a particular wood burner being used. I'd just like to make that point, that passing this law is probably the fastest way to stop wood burners, because quite honestly, April 1st is not so far away. Second, once we have passed this law, we plan to see, well, we have already been trying in the person of Tony Gonzalez to work like crazy to get the county and the state to come in and to implement their existing laws. This has been very hard. Quite honestly, it's more than difficult. But we plan to continue doing that. And we also plan to find another way to attack this, and we think we may have one. But in order to go that way, we will be dealing with something which will take probably another month to implement. Anybody else wish to speak on the board? Because I'd like to propose quite simply that we adopt this law as it stands.
This should be, Peter, this should be moved as a type 2 action under SECRA.
What's a T? Oh, all right. Yes. Fine.
Okay. With that, yes.
Go ahead, Rich.
We're good, Greg, on that? Okay. Subject to that, I would move that we adopt the ordinance as stated.
Seconded. Discussion.
Yeah, hold on. Just want to say that this is outdoor wood boilers, but
Yes.
the home in question has also demonstrated an ability to create much the same problems through the use of their indoor, whatever it is they're using indoors, fireplaces or wood stoves. And so I think we should move very quickly to close that up as well. And it seems to me.
Yes, Dan, but we know that there are a good many, or there is at least several other homes using indoor wood boilers.
Right, but
no complaints have been launched against.
No, but we have a standard in our code that's used for commercial enterprises for smoke exhaust and particulate. I think we can just grab that.
And we're trying
basically,
to
basically the problem is that the county government, the state government is not apparently able to do the job.
Well, with the so Dan, with the indoor wood stoves, it's the county health department. So yes, we need to keep putting pressure on them, and that's what I'm doing. And hopefully they will be able to enforce as they're supposed to be enforcing, and issue the appropriate violations on the subject. But correct, we do need to. I think we need to take some of that language that we have for commercial and apply it here for residential as well.
Well, so to Peter's point and that point, one, I think there aren't a few number of households. I mean, off the top of my head, I can think of 2 friends who use the indoor wood stoves. So, that's more problematic, I think, than this outdoor wood boiler thing. But to that point, I think Dan was about to say something about, yes, people use them, but there's some kind of measurement that we use for commercial entities. And we could also apply that to the residential so that if somebody is misusing the indoor, which unfortunately this same household has a history of doing, we have a mechanism to address it. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's the objective, Jane.
Sure.
And it's secondary to the Department of Health, or in parallel to, right? So if the Department of Health doesn't act fast enough, then we have something that we can fall back on.
Right. And at the same time, you keep applying the pressure to the county, and eventually,
right,
I think that'll come through.
Yeah, but to Peter's point, I think enacting this legislation now, the outdoor wood boiler is banned from April 1st to October 31st.
Yeah, that makes
they have
sense.
to use seasoned wood. If they don't use it, the permit will get suspended, and that's the more immediate fix that we can be implementing right now.
This is
well, that's what we have at our hands today. So I'm happy to move forward with that, but I think we're not done.
It's right. It's just on that point, it's an important first step in the purpose of the ordinance. It says this chapter is intended to prohibit the construction and/or installation of any further outdoor wood-burning boilers, and to ensure that existing outdoor wood-burning boilers are utilized in a manner that does not create a nuisance and is not detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the town. This is an important first step, and as the supervisor and Tony pointed out, effective April 1 through the end of October, these will not be allowed to be used. This is an important first step. We're going to try to take the next step as far as enforcement opportunities at other levels of government, as well as looking at other legislative opportunities that we may have. And as was brought up in the comments, I think has to be said, as I talk to some of the people on this call, if you're being directly aggrieved, please look at the opportunity to go to court directly. I think the way to permanently address this issue, the people who are affected directly by this have legal redress in the courts, and that's something that should be pursued as well. We're doing what we can here tonight as an important first step, but that's an important part of this as well as far as dealing with this issue.
Thanks. I'd like to propose that we adopt Chapter 165, outdoor wood burning boilers. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to move on to The next
Peter,
item.
just one point of clarification. How soon does this, though, it's got to go to the state before we can actually
Yes,
act on it?
which is probably before April 1st, but not much before.
Okay.
Is that a fair? Janet, you know more about that.
Well, Greg wants to say something.
I'll provide the DOS cover sheet for Janet, and we'll get it up to the state here sometime after tomorrow, and it'll be effective on filing. It's usually within a week to 10 days. Is that correct, Janet?
Correct.
Okay, I'd like to move on to communications. Specifically, I'd like to move on to the first public comment period. Does anybody wish to speak in the first public comment period?
We have a couple hands going up, Peter.
Okay, I would prefer that we do not go back to wood-fired boilers, please. We have got a lot of other stuff on the agenda tonight, which you're welcome to speak about.
Okay, so Harry Heffler.
Heffler.
Yep, I'm asking you to unmute. You have 2 minutes.
So this is more of just a question. I just want to know what I missed specifically. I was picked up by sister and missed the first half hour.
This is a public comment, so the board really doesn't answer.
Okay, fair enough.
But it was a public hearing on outdoor wood boilers.
Oh, my bad.
It'll be posted to look at in its entirety.
Cool, thank you. My apologies.
Right.
I'll wait. I won't speak on.
Oh, okay. Now I'm asking Robert Whitaker to unmute.
Yep.
Robert, you have 2 minutes.
Yes. Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you are.
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Parsons, I know you don't want to talk about that, but what you were saying, I'm unclear. Does that mean that there is not going to be a sunset or grace period for people who are using them now, other than between April 1st and November 1st? Are you saying that they can continue using them from November 1st and then to April 1st of the next year and continue doing that ad infinitum?
You're a lawyer. I'm sure you've read the law.
I've read what was there. I heard what was last week.
Well, that's the entire law.
Well, excuse me, but I haven't read what you just said. I don't understand. So if you could just explain to all of us, because I've talked to other people who have the same problem. Are you not having a sunset or grace period?
Where are the other people? In other parts of town?
There is a sunset. That's correct, right?
No, there is no sunset in this current law. No.
No, there is.
No, but if seasoned wood is not being used and if a lot of smoke is being generated, we can suspend the permit.
But there is no definite sunset period. It's just no use between April 1st and November 1st. Otherwise, you can use it.
For existing
Yes.
boilers, right? And no new.
Unless we do what we said that we will do, which is to look hard for a way to prevent that.
So we'll get this
more to
done
come.
short term, and we're continuing to work on it.
Gentlemen, I'm just saying that without that kind of sunset thing, next winter, you're going to have the same problem with the number of people again. And this is ultimately going to end up in court. And I'm afraid that the town is going to be a defendant in that suit.
We'll see.
You will see.
So I just want to clarify, about Janet had just said about public comment that we don't really answer, and I don't know. The back and forth, I think, can become problematic.
Sorry, I shouldn't have done that, Jane.
Okay, so the next person I'm asking to unmute is Jeremy Zittimer.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Jeremy.
Hi, everybody. This is Jeremy Zittimer from Goldensbridge. I know that later tonight, the board is planning to adopt the police reform and reinvention plan. And I would be remiss if I didn't spend at least 90 seconds just reflecting on this process, because it occurs to me that this, over the last several months, as our town has gone through the process of trying to have an earnest conversation about it, the way that the committee has managed this has just been a real failure. Several people of color and marginalized community members came on a public call early on in the process to share that they have had like firsthand negative experiences with police in Lewisboro. Obviously, that's not the experience of all people, but that is the experience of some people in Lewisboro. And months later, we heard the committee kind of gasp at the experiences of its own committee members who were people of color and shared negative experiences with the police, saying that they had not heard experiences like this before. And now we have a draft sitting on the desk of our town board that has not taken into account more than one out of Reverend Edelman's 22 suggestions for police reform in Lewisboro. There is one insulting mention of anti-racism training at the very, very end of this document with no context, no thought, no context, no implementation plan. And there is one gesture at some ethnicity data for police interactions. It doesn't even commit to all police interactions. And I look at the 21 other recommendations that Reverend Edelman requested in good faith, not trying to cause trouble, not trying to point fingers, but just trying to create a town where we don't have to worry about police incidents now or in the future. I think there is a myth perpetuated in the town that we have to wait until something happens before we can respond and prevent it. And I don't want to live in a Lewisboro where something bad happens to a community member and then we have to have a much more extreme conversation in several months about what we wish we had done. So I hope that the town board will take into consideration many of the recommendations that have been placed that have not been taken into account in this police reform plan, and will do something about it before adopting it or after adopting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Next, I'm asking Simone Petromelis to unmute. Simone?
Good evening, Simone from Vista. Legal does not equal safe. I feel as though this board has thrust national issues onto our town in an attempt to impose them on us. Thank you to Council Member Jane Crimmins for that one. It was not too long ago you wanted to have a town resolution calling Lewisboro a town of white supremacists.
Is this an ad hominem attack? I'm just curious. I'm just curious if this is an ad hominem attack. You let me know.
Can you stop the time, please, Janet? Because Council Member Jane Crimmins is being rude to me and she's not being asked to leave.
I'm wondering if this is an ad hominem attack. I'll ask our lawyer or our supervisor or whoever came up with the term ad hominem attack. I'm asking again if this qualifies as an ad hominem attack.
You can ask me, Jane. Are we going to continue allowing this? I'm starting again. Town Supervisor Peter.
So I will take that as a no that this is not an ad hominem attack, which I find very surprising.
I don't know when your outbursts are going to stop, so should I wait a moment? Are you contained, Ms. Crimmins?
All right.
I think we should terminate this.
Let's cut this one
Excuse
off.
me.
Let's cut this
I
one
would
off,
like
please.
to just speak for 2 minutes.
It's,
I have a right, Mr. Welsh. I have not
You have a
cursed,
right
I've
not
been
to make
rude.
ad hominem attacks.
Supervisor Peter Parsons, you have been at the helm quite some time and you fought the good fight for yourself and your neighbors so that our town kids would not play soccer with lights for a few weeks at Onatru. Removing yourself from the vote was quite the move after imploring the town to not support it. Council Member Dan Welsh sitting in your log cabin telling us we need permission to cut down trees. Pure comedy. If it wasn't so pathetic, and throwing the entire town into a program we are forced to opt out of while you make thousands. Ethics 101. And Council Member Tony Gonsalves, great listener. You certainly have been nothing but nice, especially when you tell us that Oak Ridge water meets the legal standards. It may look gross, you said, but it is fine. How very sweet for my 83-year-old mother who's lived there for 19 years. Oak Ridge, the most diverse part of Lewisboro, and here is where we're at in 2021. Legal does not mean safe. Safe drinking water, safe air we breathe, and safe with police support. One more time, one last time, legal does not mean safe. Thank you.
Okay, next I'm asking Letitia Stapleton to unmute. Can you hear us?
Hi, how are you? I'm
Good.
Letitia and I'm from Lewisboro, Goldens Bridge. And for the past couple of sessions, unfortunately, this lady Simone has made me feel a certain type of way. I don't like how she's coming at people on the town board, and she's also making me feel a certain type of way as being a Black person. She seems a little racist to me, and I think that we need to control that. I'm not feeling safe when she's on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Letitia. And next, I'm asking Robin Leganzowski to unmute.
Hi, that was very uncomfortable to have a town member call out a private citizen on the board meeting, someone that she doesn't know about an issue that like has nothing to do with what Simone was talking about. Also, the board members should realize that they're in public office and, when we have a problem, we have to go to them. And if they aren't working the way we like, how else to express ourselves than to say it to them and direct our comments to each person on each committee. The Oak Ridge water situation is really disturbing. I've owned a unit there for 22 years, I think, and I cannot believe it hasn't been resolved. It's just getting worse and worse. On top of that, Meadow Pond having no drinkable water. So kids that live in Oak Ridge and then have to go to Meadow Pond are around water that is unsafe. Even when it's at legal limits, legal does not equal safe. We don't know the long-term effects. They've said that, and something needs to be done about it. In 2017, we were promised to address the Oak Ridge water situation, and here we are in 2021, still dealing with the Oak Ridge water situation. Why don't we rethink our town? Let some businesses in. We need some commercial tax base money to pay for these things. We can't be this, country town and have unsafe drinking water. We need to fix it. We need to get people with money in town if we can't pay for it. It's actually horrifying to think. And I guess you guys have never seen the brown water. A Brita filter isn't going to help. So I think that we should stop worrying about trees and leaf blowers and start worrying about drinkable water for our town citizens so that we don't look like Flint, Michigan. I'd like Mr. Parsons to go over and have a cup of the water at Oak Ridge and see if he can drink it. Thank you.
Okay. Next, I'm asking Marissa Beatty to unmute.
Hi, good evening. I live over in Oak Ridge. I was just calling to talk about how our wells, our plant, and our overall system are showing signs of fragility and has been for almost 20 years. This week, we got a notice about having high PFOSs in our well number 6, as well as a notice from our elementary school, Meadow Pond, which I have a 5-year-old who also goes there. It's really becoming critical to address the many issues with the water here. Many of us frequently have discoloration ranging from a pink to a muddy brown, but mainly just a permanent rust color in the toilet is normal. And some of us have iron stains on the floor of our showers and our tiles because of the amount of iron in the water. Some people are complaining that they have sediment in their water. Most of us use bottled water. In one of my bathrooms, the water that comes out is actually very cloudy and it smells like sulfur and makes me want to vomit, and we refuse to use it. I pay $150 a month for bottled water, and I pay $190 quarterly to the town of Lewisboro to use the Oak Ridge Water Sewer and Sewer District. Annually, I spend about $2,200 additionally just for water in my home, in addition to my taxes. The town board has been derelict in their duties to the citizens of Oak Ridge in their past with their failure to maintain the facility. Oak Ridge Water and Sewer District has been operating without a capital plan or annual operating budget. Despite numerous requests from Vistans for safe water, the town who owns the plan has been unwilling or unable to provide transparent accounting details for the OW district, including $830,000 in funds that was given to the town from the developer to upgrade our plant for safe water. In 2020, our homeowners association did an independent water report. We still continue to have high levels of lead, hardness, sodium, and that's not safe, nor is it acceptable. Safe does not, it is what we're asking for. Like everyone said, legal does not mean safe. It's unacceptable.
Thank you, Martha. Next, I'm asking Jim and Han to unmute. Jim, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, Jim and Han again from South Salem. I just want to say it's really hard. I think the rules were to not call town board members out by name and have these personal attacks. And then it's very upsetting to listen to members of our community doing that. It's hard to hear because, you know, we are trying to get some work done. I come on the calls to see what's happening in the town. I understand there's frustration, but I would like to see the rules enforced. And I want to just also add that it's frustrating also because as a person of color, in talking about the police plan here, what came out of the committee, it was sad to see that what a lot of people of color in this community felt, and I discussed with them that no matter what we said, it wouldn't matter. Sadly, that seemed to be the case. We're just asking for some more reassurances in some way. It's not personal. It was just to make the system be responsible in some way. And it's just really sad to me that that wasn't able to happen. And that, you know, I could only just say to other people who spoke out along with me that we tried, but unfortunately what we expected to happen happened. I'm trying to be hopeful that sometime that these conversations can continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you,
All right,
Jim,
Janet.
and that's it. For
I'd
public
like
comment.
to make a motion to close the public comment session. Do I have a second?
Second.
It looks like Martha M. Goodman might want to speak.
Oh, okay. Martha, do you want to speak or not?
Yes, sorry, I had to figure that out. I just wanted to say that I was distressed at hearing Letitia's, the way she spoke about Simone. I don't believe she knows Simone or Simone's life's work. I just think that's horrendous that we would allow that in our town. The speaking out against other people like that, that's a powerful word to use against someone who you don't know. You know nothing about them. So I don't know how we tolerate that at all.
All right,
really
can
all
we
I
go
wanted to
on?
say.
I'd like to go on to the next part of the meeting.
We can, but we all have 2 minutes to speak, and everybody is not everybody. Some people are consistently interrupted by you and other town board members. Like, I get my 2 minutes to say, you know, I could sing blah, blah, blah.
I thought you'd finished.
I don't Well, I'll say thank you very much for your work when I finish. So please just let people speak. We feel better when we can put in our 2 cents, and that's our right. And that's all. I thank you all for your work. Good night.
Thanks. All right, let's go on then. I'd like to move on to communications. And the first thing I'd like to do in communications is ask Mr. Flores, who runs basically Delaware Water or Delaware Engineering, right? Robert?
Hi.
Delaware Engineering?
Yeah, and Peter, if I may, I just want to provide a little bit of intro here. So I asked Robert, this was last minute, for him to come on board and speak to us regarding the most recent PFOS findings and the fact that we have one well which exceeded in the quarterly testing, which was done early this year between January and February. Testing was done twice. And so I invited Robert to give us a little feedback. He has experience in working with other water districts that have had similar problems. And so I'll let you go ahead, Robert, and start.
All right, thanks. Yep. So there's a lot on the internet and everywhere else about.
Robert, I'm sorry, could you just introduce yourself? I've never met you before in your position with the company, just so everybody knows.
Yep. So my name is Robert Flores. I'm a senior project manager with Delaware Engineering. Been doing water and wastewater for 29 years now. Time flies. Delaware Engineering has been working with the town of Lewisboro for quite a while, probably going on 20 years on various projects here and there. And we help you when time to time when things come up at your for example, you got the test results back from the Oak Ridge Water District with the high levels of PFAS, right? So, and like I was saying, there's the PFAS issue. There's extensive work out there that explains it and the health concerns, and it's got a lot of bad acronyms for a reason. Forever chemicals that have been tied to cancer, all that stuff. But it's relatively new, to the industry. So I'll just do a really quick history here. So around 2014 is when the village of Hoosick Falls and the city of Newburgh discovered they had that in their water supplies. And at that time, there was no New York State maximum contaminant level for these chemicals. There was an EPA guidelines for these. There was levels were 200 and 400. And as we started getting into it, New York State, through the efforts, to treat the water of Hoosick Falls, established a limit around of 70 parts per trillion. So as this got, became more and more of an issue, the Department of Health decided to take a sampling throughout the state. And over a couple of years, they sampled nearly 300 randomly selected water districts. Oak Ridge was not one of them. And they found, several had, low levels of PFAS throughout the New York State, which is other states did the same thing and a similar story everywhere, right? So low levels of PFAS have been found, just about every county in the state. Here in Lewisboro, there's no big industry or big, airport like there was in Newburgh that you can point to why these chemicals are here. These chemicals were widely used in everything from, nonstick pans to popcorn to fire extinguishers. So, now we're finding that they're everywhere. So New York State passed a law last year. They had lowered the limit from 70 parts per trillion to 10 parts per trillion. And they said, everybody in 2021 take 4 samples, 1 every quarter. And that's what you did. You followed. You had no reason to sample for these chemicals before, because you no reason to suspect them. So you did what was required of you. You took your quarterly sample. The results came back where it was detected in one of your wells. Well number 6 was high, right? So you did what's the common practice. You test to make sure it wasn't because we're talking parts per trillion, right? So you did the second sample to verify, which again, that's the standard protocol with New York State. And that can confirmed that you did have high levels of PFOS at well 6, high meaning it's above the threshold of 10.
So last year, Robert, it was 70 and it was changed this year to 10. And the reading was a one-time reading in one well of 14. Is that right?
In 2020, it was changed to 10, right? Yeah. When the whole Hoosick Falls and Newburgh issues arose, New York State established a limit of 70 because prior to that, they didn't have one. And there was an advisory limit from the EPA of 200 parts per trillion. So the detection limit of this is 2 parts per trillion. That's the level of science that we can detect this at. So you could see some of your other wells, you might have detected it, you got a 4 or a 6. And what's happening throughout the state and others throughout the country is you're finding water supplies in that thresholds, single digits is fairly common. And New York State decided, 10 was the number, right?
And in comparison, Robert, EPA is still at 70, correct? The federal EPA is still at 70? And
some of the neighboring states around us are still at 70.
Right, such as Connecticut, right?
Yeah. So, obviously, these chemicals, having known that you're in the water, it's not a good thing. A few years back, I worked for the village of Hoosick Falls when they had to figure out what to do. And then, which was only 4 years ago, right? Or six years ago, sorry. They, we didn't know how to treat it, how much, what would work, what was acceptable. So I guess the good and the bad is we found out that granulated activated carbon does a good job of removing these chemicals to non-detect. And so that's been the tried and true technologies, but that's been applied for all the various municipalities. And since then, Hoosick Falls had levels in the 700s, right? Where you have levels of 16. So it's order of magnitude difference. But other communities, such as yourself, have been detecting, in the single digits, the teens, and they've been dealing with the same issue that you're dealing with today. First sampling result, and even when the limit was 70 and we were detecting 11 and 12s, people weren't comfortable with that in their drinking water. No, everything that's published about PFAS chemicals. So the way the regulations work, you've tested positive, you confirmed that you tested positive, you're obligated to test 4 quarters. So you've taken your first quarter sample. So you're gonna take another quarterly sample, I would assume sometime in April, the beginning of the quarter. And you're testing each of your wells, and you're also gonna test the combination of the wells that goes to the, leaves the water plant. We should also note that as soon as it was detected the well 6 was above the level, your operators took action so they could stop using it. And they're using your other wells, which have numbers in the single digit, but below the standard of 10. So
is there a benefit of testing well 6, which has been shut down sooner than in the next quarter?
So basically what we found with these chemicals is that, and this is why the state tests quarterly, is that the numbers vary seasonally. In the beginning, the thought was, okay, if we got a 10 today, maybe next year it'll be an 8 and then a 6, and maybe it'll just dissipate. But what tends to happen is that it fluctuates throughout the year based on groundwater movement, and because they got the tag of forever chemicals for a reason. So each time you take a test is about $300. And you have 5 wells, and then you have the exit, the entry, we call it the entry point, which is the water that leaves your water plant. So you can decide to test them, more often, but you're required to sample quarterly, right?
And that quarterly requirement, that's only at the wells, correct?
Right. What they call the raw water well.
Right. And I know that they
Prior to
took a
treatment.
sample on Friday for the entry point, which is what gets distributed. And it's the combination of the water that comes from the other 3 or 4 operational wells.
Right. So the way the regulation is written is once it's been detected, it's above the MCL level, maximum contaminant level. You have you have a letter from the Department of Health, which gave you a deadline of May 31st to provide an action plan. May 31st.
Correct.
And the way the regulation is written, you have that action plan has to have within 24 months, how are you going to solve the issue? And you can ask for an extension if there's, situations arise, but that's the action plan should show that within 24 months, you would have addressed it. Obviously, the short term is what you're doing right now is stop using the well that has the highest level. But, by shutting down one of your water supply wells, you are short 1 well, right? So just permanently using that well is not a solution by itself, because then you have to find more water, right? So I'm sure there's like a million questions, and that's probably enough background. Maybe we should get into some questions.
My first question is very simple. What are you going to recommend? A carbon filter, a series of carbon filters?
Well, so the due diligence is to look at the alternatives, right? So the alternatives is there another water supply that you could extend to Lewisboro? I think we know what the answer is going to be to that, but it should be explored.
I actually checked the Aquarian test results because we've talked to them about bringing their treated water over to here. They're actually, they would fail New York.
Because their levels are higher.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of doesn't pan out right away, right?
Right.
Then there's the obvious, is there another, should we drill more wells? But you've been drilling wells in this area for a while. You know that, in a well that gives 20 gallons a minute is good for Lewisboro. So it's kind of hard to think you're going to find, 4 more wells that don't have any other problems, right? But that should be documented. So we know that the tried and true solution is carbon filtration, right? So a properly sized carbon filter will remove PFAS chemicals and, lots of other things. The THMs, which is an issue we've been dealing with for a while, and taste and odor issues, color issues. So there's, I guess there's a lot of other benefits to using carbon filtration units.
Could you explain what that is, what a carbon filtration unit is and what it does?
So it's basically kind of like it sounds. It's a large vessel, and for a facility of your size, which uses maximum capacity of 100,000 gallons per day, we're looking at a vessel that's about 8-foot diameter and 16 feet tall and full of granulated activated carbon. So the carbon, as water flows through the carbon absorbs the PFAS chemicals. So it has a lifespan. So it's absorbing the chemicals as the water flows through it. So there's a distinct time. It might be 18 months, it might be 2 years, when the absorption ability of the carbon is used up and it's time to replace the carbon.
So you keep the same vessel, but you change the filter component, the carbon filter component within it every 18 months or so, you think?
That's right. So you have the way that it's installed is you install it with 2 vessels. And the proper way to do it is you operate them in series. So water flows to the first vessel and then to the second. And as you detect chemicals leaving the first vessel and entering the second, that's the, still no water is leaving to the actual, leaving the plant. But that's when you know it's time to call for carbon replacement. So that and then the process repeats, right?
I actually have a document. If anyone's interested, I can show real quick what it looks like. That's okay, Peter. Can I just share this real quick?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. So this is what it would look like. So there's a 16-foot high by approximately 8 foot wide. And it's a dual filtration system, correct, Robert? So the water flows from one into the other.
Right. You can run them in series and parallel, but you normally operate them in series, which means flows through filter 1, then through filter 2.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was saying is when you detect PFAS going between filter 1 and filter 2, that's the time that it's time to change the carbon in filter 1.
Right.
Now, we already have some level of carbon filtration going on at the plant somewhere, right?
So you have some carbon filters that I don't think they're in use right now, but to give you an idea, those filters can hold 900 pounds of carbon. And the filters that Tony just put up, which are the approximate size you will need, but there's things you have to do to verify them. But they hold 10,000 pounds, right? So so you need much larger units to make sure that they're properly sized.
Mm-hmm.
And I assume that from the size of those, we would need to expand the building, right?
The way these are typically designed, they're add-ons. So it's be like a building next to your existing building. And so the water would flow out of your water plant into these filters and then back into the water plant.
Can you do 2 things for us? Can you give us a timeline on how fast we can get this done? Bearing in mind that there is going to be, I assume, one of these interruptions where we wait for county health to approve what we're doing, right? But still, let's get a timeline for the actual action. And at the same time, let's get some kind of a cost estimate. I know you can only do that by going out to bid finally, but let's get an estimated cost estimate for what we're doing. And I think it's pretty obvious what we need to do because there are snags with everything else you brought up. And the only real way through this is, I think, carbon filtration.
That's the try. We know it'll work, right?
Yes. So why fool around with things we don't know will work?
So, there's obviously things that can happen along the way, but the standard timeline is 2 years. By the time you go through design, DOH approval, construction, installation, there are things you can do to speed it up. But for example, let me take you back when we did Hoosick Falls, which was emergency, all hands on deck. We had all of DOH's attention, and it was moving as fast as anything could move through approvals and whatnot. That was from a December to December. So on December, they said, this has to be operational December 31st next year. And it took all of that to get it operational.
And what were the MCL levels there at Hoosick Falls?
Hoosick Falls, they were in the 700s. It's also, the other thing that happened that we did at Hoosick Falls is we did a temporary treatment until the permanent was installed. So in about 3 months' time, we had the temporary system up and running. So the temporary system was, they rent these carbon filters, right? So you rent what's on the shelf, not the one that's sized just for you. And obviously it's a used system, but you can install it and use it. and you have treated water.
But they were in a situation where they had, I guess, no qualified water, or where we are limping along at least on some wells that can hold on for a while.
Right, as you got, the notice from Department of Health, based on the levels that you have, which are slightly above the MCL, their opinion is that you can use the water, and that you can take the normal 2 years to implement a solution.
Or we can keep, right now, we've got the one well offline, so we're in compliance at the moment.
So that, right, what's leaving your plant, we'll have a sample that the results won't come back. Unfortunately, it is quite, as you can imagine, you're testing something that's parts per trillion. So the test is, it's unique and special, and it does take about 3 weeks to get a result.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're testing, what leaving the water plant, which we expect will be less than 10 parts per trillion, right? But I don't think that lab result has come back yet.
No, it hasn't. The sample was just drawn on Friday and sent to the lab.
Robert, I hear all the reasons why we may miss the deadlines we set for ourselves, but let's at least get a schedule, an optimum schedule, and also figure out how we're going to supply water while we're doing it, and get the prices, because I think we need to make, I can't see any alternative but to do this from what you've said. And I'd prefer to do it than go by guess and by God.
In evaluating for other municipalities that were in your situation, where you were hovering around the 10 limit, we had to explore the option of doing a rental unit and temporary. But with the exception of Hoosick Falls, everybody chose not to do it because it didn't really save you that much time, and you ended up paying, a lot more.
Okay, but let's have a recommendation. Do you know what any of the towns around us are doing?
I don't know of anybody that's that close to you that's has to do the.
How about Ridgefield in Connecticut?
I don't know what they're doing right now.
They have a public water supply which tends to be somewhat mirror ours.
But their MCL levels are higher, Peter.
Remember, yeah, Connecticut is 70.
I know they are, but if they've got parts per trillion, which are similar to ours or higher, then we know that it's basically something we have to get rid of by some form of purification, because it ain't going to go away.
Right.
And the reason I brought up Ridgefield is they're in the same Reading prom as we're in. Correct.
But the fact is, if they're operating under these higher standards, they may not have taken any action, so not really have any reference sort of information for us.
But can't we test theirs and see?
Test what?
Ridgefield's water and see if they've got the same problem.
Well, that was a point I made earlier, Peter. I checked online at Aquarian Water, and their test results are public information. They have wells that are higher than ours.
Yeah, but but where are they supplying water to?
This was various parts of Connecticut. I have to go back and check. Let's see.
I know, but one of the reasons I'm interested in Ridgefield is they have exactly the same geology as the Vista area.
But I mean, what's that going to ultimately do for us? We have a situation with our plant, and we need to take care of it, I guess.
Yeah, but we can ask, right? What the first steps that we would do is we need to grab a 5-gallon sample, 5 gallons of water from the water plant of the
Okay.
send it to the lab, and we do an isotherm test, and this determines the type of carbon that we want to use, and it gives us an estimate of how long the carbon will last based on your specific water, right?
Okay.
Well,
Well, give us
counts of carbon. Yep.
give us that proposal and that timeline. Forget about Ridgefield. I agree that's irrelevant.
So Ridgefield, just to give you an idea here, there's 4 wells here. One of them showed a level of 20. Another one was 9. The other one was 5. Another one was 3.
So very, I would say similar, right?
Right.
To yours.
And these are the distribution point readings for 4 different POE point of entry for 4 different, I guess, water districts within Ridgefield.
So if possible, we should take this timeline and identify where the sort of critical path, restrictions are on that. And if it's, if it's Department of Health and like giving them an early heads up that we're coming, is something that'll gain us a week or something. We should look for every point in that schedule. So we can start drafting an RFP today. That's just waiting for some final numbers to be put in. Then we could start doing that. Let's look for all the different ways we can accelerate the schedule.
That's exactly, I think you're going down to that path. So that's what we found out is, as you know, that for the last year, 2 years, nationwide, people have been sampling for this chemicals. Like New Jersey did it a year before New York did. So these carbon vessels are in high demand. And sometimes it takes 20 weeks to get one.
Okay.
So the best way to speed up the timeline is to pre-purchase the vessels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also the best way to get the best price for the town. So
that could be part of your recommendation, please.
Yeah. So you pre-purchase the vessels. We test the water so we could identify, the size and the amount of media.
Right.
And you do an RFP for the vessels. And you start that 20-week time, right? And and then you go parallel with Department of Health.
Okay,
great. That's
Robert
great.
is.
And,
I'm sorry.
and get that plus minus 20% budget as soon as possible, so that we can work out whatever we have to do on the finance side, and so we cover all that.
Robert, is there anything anybody in Oak Ridge should do or needs to do in connection with their use of water right now?
Well, based on the health department guidance, they're saying that you should use the water the way you always used it. But what we always advise people, you should speak to your doctor, right? This is your own health, and say this is what I know my water has. What should I do? And I think you can only get that from your doctor.
These compounds, they're everywhere. They came from all different sources, I guess, things that we might not imagine. But is there any possibility that there's something in the neighborhood that's contributing more than other things? I mean, we used to look for like, dry cleaners or something for for other compounds, or just gas stations, whatever it is. Is there anything we should be looking at there?
Well, so in very general terms, we say PFAS, but we're talking about PFOA, PFOS, and your high level was PFOS, although you did detect on some of the others. So again, a very broad brush approach, PFOS has been traced back to firefighting foam. So that's in Newburgh, that's what they had. They had the firing foam from the airport, and that's what that got traced to. In Hoosick Falls, it was PFOA, and it was because there was an industry that made Teflon products.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And it's not people's nonstick frying pans, most likely. And it could be some historical source that's kind of gone away or something that was there 10 years ago.
Right, that's very possible. Like I said, the list of products that were used, 409 household cleaner, corn, nonstick pans, the list goes on and on and on. Cosmetics, and we all use them. We have septic systems. Septic systems go into groundwater. So,
so most of those things are out of circulation today, right? They've been removed from the market and whatnot.
Right.
Well, there's also, I mean, I did a little research, is stain treatments for clothing and furniture. There's fishing line. You mentioned cosmetics. There's outdoor clothing that's water repellent. And it just goes on. Pesticides used for mosquito mitigation, toner and printing ink.
Robert, is the water currently safe to drink?
Yes, is what he's saying.
Okay.
That's what Department of Health issued you a letter saying that.
Okay. So yes, according to the Department of Health, it's safe.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
It's not likely that the firehouse has any contribution. They don't do a compound that through cleaning the floors or something, that there's some best practices that could happen there.
I was going to nudge Tony into reminding me to go and talk to Vista Fire Department about fires in the area, which they've recently had to put out. And also about where they practice and whether they practice with foam.
So what's happened in other towns and municipalities where they traced it to firefighting foam is, there is several class action lawsuits where you're suing the manufacturer of the firefighting foam because, I guess the alleged part is that they knew it was bad and they sold it to the fire department knowing it was bad.
Okay.
So that's what's kind of going on in other places.
And perhaps there's alternative products that don't contain these things.
Well, now there is, right?
So we would want to make sure that transition was made anyway. Yeah.
I'm also going to have, if you don't mind, a discussion with North Salem about exactly what happened there. I think the supervisor has a theory, which I'd prefer not to air in this meeting until he's given me some permission to do so, because they had an extremely high reading at one of their schools.
Oh.
And like just to make the point, these chemicals are, you can go read on the internet, and there's lots of books published, scientific books. The stuff is bad, right? You have very low levels of it, and you should do something about it. You should definitely talk to your doctor about being exposed. This is the first time you've had a chance to test because you had no reason to suspect them out before this. So this is, as soon as the town found out about it, you followed all the protocols, you notified the public. So the public should consult with their doctors to see what they should do or not do.
Robert, this is irrelevant to you, but Meadow Pond had a high figure. But anybody listening to this who has kids at Meadow Pond should know that they have not been using their well water since 2018 because of another contaminant. And they have, in fact, since 2018, been using bottled water for all cooking and drinking. That's kind of irrelevant, but some people who are listening may be interested. Thanks.
Okay,
If
thank,
you-
thank you very much, Robert.
Robert, if you
on
can
short
get
notice.
back to us with what you promised, it would be fantastic.
Yep.
Okay, but like I said, we'll have a plan, and one of the first things on that plan is we're gonna get that sample collected and sent to the lab for testing. Okay.
All right, thanks a lot. Let's
Thank you,
move
Robert.
on to, I've got a letter here I'd like to read into the record in communications. It is a letter from Dick and Melanie McElroy, who, in order to support our Parks and Rec department, are donating $1,400 to purchase items to be used at the town park pool facility, namely a first aid bed, a first aid cabinet, and a PA sound system. I'd like to thank them very much indeed. I also had a series of letters addressing the situation in Golden's Bridge with the smoke. They were all clearly against smoke. Nobody was in favor. All right. I'd now like to move on to, do I have an agenda? Yes, I do. I'd like to move on to a resolution. Oh, no, I'd like to move on to a discussion regarding the tree ordinance.
Peter,
We
can
have
you
a
just
consent.
do the consent agenda first?
Oh, I thought sorry. I'd like to move approval of the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'd like to move on to a discussion regarding the tree ordinance. What do you think, guys? I think we've made some substantial changes to it, which fit the conversations we've had. And namely, let's forget my change, which was purely to give more reasons for doing it. The second thing is I'm having discussions with two arborists who we could bring in for administration and enforcement. Yes?
I'll just give a quick overview. I mean, we defined in the revision, defined what clear cutting is, and we have, I think, well delineated exceptions. We have a buffer in proximity to a dwelling if it would reach
of 100 feet.
Reach a dwelling if it were to fall. So that's an exception to the clear cutting definition. Also, tree removal of any tree which is dead, diseased, or in a state of irreversible decline or decay, as determined by either a professional arborist or other licensed tree service professional retained by the property owner or resident. So we've addressed the issues that people raised from the public comments, and I think it's in pretty good shape now. I think almost everybody in the town board and council has commented. I think we're in a position to be able to move this forward for a public hearing.
The
last
biggest change in my mind was the 100 feet. Richard?
Right, and just to clarify on that, so any tree within that 100-foot buffer that is at risk of striking the dwelling does not require a permit to be removed.
Right, comes outside of the definition of clear cutting.
Right.
So I propose that the bit about the survey be clarified.
Yeah, Dan had a couple of points which Greg should incorporate in there, and then I think we'll be ready for the public hearing.
If you wish to schedule it, I can make those very technical changes that Dan had pointed out, and that could be in the draft that goes out for public hearing here in the next, have it done in a day or so, and then you can notice it for whatever meeting you guys want to put it on for.
I'd like to put it on for 2 weeks from now.
You already had it scheduled for April 12th.
We do.
Is that, oh, that's 3 weeks. That's a weird amount.
That's your next meeting, is April
Let's
12th.
Okay, well, let's do
Okay.
it for April 12th.
You right?
Let's move on.
No,
I didn't notice it, so you can change it, but you had originally
Notice
scheduled it for April 12th.
Why don't we stick with it?
Okay, so do we need another motion to set the public hearing?
Apparently, we've already had a motion to do it on, we
Okay.
haven't?
Good.
Have we done it or not?
You already did a motion. Yeah.
Good. All right.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
You've
fine.
already done that at the March 8th meeting, I believe, but you said that's the second public hearing on trees is April 12th.
Yes. Okay.
Good.
Jane, would you like to discuss your proposal for a resolution approving formation of an LGBTQIA plus Pride Month task force?
Thank you, Peter. I assume that you all had a chance to read the resolution that was in the agenda packet, and rather than speak myself, I'm going to go ahead and ask that we give Rachel Simon, co-host, permission so that she can share her video and her screen. Rachel Simon is a resident of South Salem. I've been doing a lot of organizing at the level of community that I think everybody knows, and I'm thrilled to finally have the opportunity to bring that into the level of government. Rachel has taken me up on the offer to help to lead the organization of some events and programming in June. And I would like to give you some of her credentials, and then we'll give her a minute here, and we'll get going, or Rachel will get going, and then I'm happy to answer any questions or talk further about it. So like I said, Rachel lives right here in town. She's a South Salem resident. And by day, she runs the Office of Multicultural Affairs in the Division of, I'm like blanking on the word, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. At Pace University. And she's also a member of the Westchester County LGBTQ Advisory Board. So she comes to us with all of that experience from the county, and we'll be able to link up and do some nice sharing there. So Janet or Joel, are you able to give Rachel Simon co-host?
Joel's working on it.
There she is.
It worked.
It did. Welcome, Rachel. Thank you so much for coming tonight and giving us your time and your skills and your knowledge and your experience.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rachel. I use she and they pronouns, and thanks to Town Board Member Crimmins and the rest of the board for the good work and invitation to speak about this, I guess, task force initiative, whatever we're calling it. So in addition to Jane's introduction about my work with the Westchester County LGBT Advisory Board, which advises County Executive George Latimer on issues facing the community, I also serve as the vice president of the board of Pride Works for Youth, is an organization over 20 years old that started as a Westchester County initiative that brings together queer youth from across the Hudson Valley. At our last conference, pre-COVID, we had about 600 middle and high school students and their adult advocates come together for a one-day conference, which is exciting. And here's a little bit of boasting, that last June, State Senator Peter Harcum gave me a New York State commendation in recognition of my advocacy work with the LGBTQA community. So now that you know I'm legit, I will speak to this proposal. It provides a welcome signal to our community, especially in light of Lewisboro's message and image as a welcoming and affirming community. Many of us are familiar with troubling statistics about LGBTQA plus youth being the targets of bullying and harassment. Those statistics usually speak to the fact that half of that harassment comes from peers and half from teachers and administrators. So, we need to be serving our youth better. And I hope that this committee can center and honor queer and trans people of color. I look forward to seeing the Progress Pride flag around town this summer, the flag that, in addition to the traditional rainbow, includes stripes of the pink and blue and white of the trans pride flag, and also Black and brown stripes that focus our work on people of color who have long been leaders in the LGBTQA community and too often are multiply marginalized within queer spaces. I imagine people feeling isolated or marginalized seeing the flag around town and having those feelings of isolation lessened. I look forward to partnering with community members, neighbors, and especially the Gender and Sexuality Alliance at John Jay High School to create COVID-safe events and visibility across Lewisboro this June. And thanks for your time.
Is the flag you referred to the one behind your right shoulder?
It is the one behind my right shoulder.
Okay. I just wanted to check.
Yeah, and I also, depending on my office positioning, I also have the trans pride flag there too.
Do you work with Sean Patrick Maloney?
I don't work with him, no.
Okay, I thought you might. I thought he might be.
I wouldn't be opposed if he has work that he'd like to do together.
Okay.
Maybe this could be the beginning of that. There's no reason why we can't reach out to him and ask him if he would be open to being acknowledged and honored by the town during that month, you know, write a resolution for him. I mean, he was the co-sponsor of the Equality Act. And so maybe you've just planted a good seed, Peter.
Because I don't think there's anybody who's more public about his preferences than Sean Patrick. Maybe I'm wrong, but he strikes me as, I mean, the Christmas cards I get from him are very open.
So thank you, Rachel, and thank you, Jane. This is a nice initiative, and I feel like, you know, this is a subject which has been, you know, discussed in the schools for some time, I think, and it's about time that the town sort of connected with all this and, you know, tried to make some moves in acknowledging the broader societal, you know, progress and context on all this. And we need some help in figuring out what the best way to do that is. So it's great.
I applaud what's being done. I appreciate the purposes behind this, the organization and the programming. My only qualification to the resolution is my concern about asking for town money towards it. My strong view on this is that it should be privately funded. I'm willing to contribute towards it myself, but I don't think that it should be promoted through the use of town tax dollars. That's my personal opinion on it.
Could you maybe, can you say, I understand your opinion, but could you give me some of the why behind it?
The why behind it is because I don't think the town really should be in a position where advocating for particular organizations, there is so unlimited amount of groups, everything from, look what's going on right now between anti-Asian violence that's going on. The presentation was talking about the targets of bullying and harassment. Anti-Asian discrimination and harassments going on across the country right now. The bottom line is there are an unlimited amount of good causes that should be advocated and are very important, and people should spend their time and their effort promoting those, and this is one of them. My view is simply that we shouldn't utilize tax dollars. I'll give a contribution towards helping to fund this myself out of my own pocket, but I have a strong view it shouldn't be the town tax dollars that go to fund it.
Well, I think that governments at all levels have historically been on the other side of you know, creating some of these problems, and I think in so many arenas and so many levels of government, you know, this has been recognized that we're trying to turn that around, and there's funding that goes into these these type of programs in all different types of government institutions, and there's nothing about this. I don't believe that we're not talking about, picking a particular group and sending them money. Where this is a town activity, and celebrating anything. It could be whatever. I don't have a problem with this.
Yeah, as a precedent on that, I know that there was when I was on the library board, there was a drag queen storyteller hour, I believe, which was part of the programming.
What a fantastic program. That was so well attended. And I cannot tell you how it wasn't, and so many of the people I saw at that event, it didn't look, I don't know, but it wasn't apparent that it was a large number of the queer and trans community that came out to that event. It was more apparent that it seemed like a lot of, you're more, now I'm having a hard time talking about it. You get the more traditional family with the mom and the dad and the kids, and I saw a lot more of that at that event. So I just don't want to minimize how this is about the whole community, and I don't want to, yes, we are definitely, this is a whole community event.
No, but my point that I wanted to bring out on that was part of the program for the library. But
right.
But that was privately funded by some moms who helped to pay for that. And so there's a precedent in town of the type of programming and events you're talking about, which was privately funded. And all I'm saying is that's exactly the same precedent the town should follow here.
Greg,
I'll write you a check to help pay.
Is the town allowed to contribute tax money to what I assume is a charitable organization?
If the town authorizes by a resolution of the board that you can. And
Okay.
I would think you have an events line somewhere within the budget.
Exactly.
We're looking to buy some of these flags that Rachel has behind her to do a flag raising outside the townhouse and the pool and Onatru, and some banners to put in the shop.
I would also suggest, not to interrupt, but I think that this would be a challenge to our community to enhance the mission. If you ask people in the community to help fund this privately, just like we have the fireworks and other events in our town, it gives people in the community an opportunity to rally around and show that this is important to them.
Oh, okay, I hear you. Excuse me, because I actually was interrupted, so I wasn't meant to be interrupted, but it was. So I just wanted to finish what I was saying, was that the money will be going to these flags behind Rachel and some banners and then a communal art project. And so it's not going to an organization. It sounds to me like there's some hesitancy around using town money for a drag queen story hour. And if that's what we're talking about, then that might be what we're talking about. But I think that this funding is a separate issue, and it is time for $1,000 is not a lot of money to be asking for. It's a small sum.
That's why I thought you asked for it.
Mm-hmm.
You would get a lot more than 1,000 from the public.
Well, so then we might do both. I mean, it's just a gesture. It's simply
okay.
Yeah, I think that gesture
of putting
is
some
important.
action and money behind, putting some action behind the welcoming resolution. This is like the first piece of real action. And
So
I'm really grateful to Rachel for taking it on. This is not easy. And so I'm really grateful that we're able to do this. And so, I'm not going to go back and forth about the money anymore. But Rich, you and I, we just disagree. It's not that I don't see your point of view. It's that I disagree.
Right. It's just a view. We have limited resources. And my view is that $1,000 could go to fill a pothole or go to playground equipment or something else. It's $1,000.
We just agreed to borrow $300,000 for a playground. I'm asking for $1,000 for some incidentals to help this group get some. I don't think that you have an understanding of how people are impacted by seeing a flag around town, or how people are impacted by their town government saying, yes, we'll support you with our money.
Jane, as I said at the beginning of my comments, I applaud what's being done here. And I think it's an opportunity to help bring members of the community together so that they could raise a lot more money than that and show that our community supports this mission and do a lot more than you're seeking to here by just putting town funds toward it. That's my opinion.
Oh, well, I think it's a good suggestion that we could do both. It doesn't stop us from also going out and having give private money. This is just like some
So
seed.
I'm on the fence about this, and I think Rich, you mentioned the potential precedent we would be setting. My personal opinion is when we formed the Veterans Advisory Committee, there was also some pushback of having to use town money to fund, for example, putting the flagpole, just because of the situation we were in financially. And that was raised through individual donors.
Right. I do
So
just
again,
point out that we, sorry, Tony, I didn't realize you weren't done. I can write down my thought and.
yeah.
Mhm.
So that's my only concern is, we didn't do it for them. Now we're going to do it here. What's the precedent that we're setting going forward?
Yeah, I think that we're drawing a little bit of a false equivalency. However, we celebrate the veterans a lot at a federal level, and we do that a lot. So a lot of resources go towards those events, big events in town, Memorial Day. Then we have Veterans Day.
Well, Memorial Day is not a veterans celebration. That's something different.
Oh, okay. Can you remind me what Memorial Day is?
It's remembering the fallen.
Okay, so it's not about the vets, it's about the
Correct.
people, right? That not the people who, right?
It's about the dead.
The dead.
Right,
Correct.
right, exactly. So, okay, my mistake. I apologize for that. Yeah, I do understand the difference there, and but at the same time, I think that there's a lot of recognition of our military community, and I can appreciate that for all the sacrifices they make for us and their undue service. This is a big service. That Rachel and the group and whoever wants to join us going forward is this is a big deal. So in any case, I don't want to go back and forth about it, but I do appreciate your guys' input.
Okay, do you want to put it to a vote, Jane?
Yeah.
You propose it. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dan, presumably.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes,
All
I
in
would ask that the proposal be modified so I could support it by taking out the town contribution towards it.
Yeah, but if you do that, then we're not passing the resolution, are we?
Well, we have time to, it's for June.
I mean, I prefer to see it stay in, just as an expression of commitment.
Is somebody going to read the resolution first?
Yes. Do you want me to, or will you read it, Jane?
Should I put it up on the screen so people can see?
That would be great, Tony, and then I'm happy to read it. Or Rachel, if you want to read it. Which way? Don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm happy to read it.
One of you will have to adopt it if Rachel reads it, just so it comes. from
Okay.
the board member. Okay,
That's fine.
That can happen. Okay.
Okay, this is the resolution designating and declaring June as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month in the town of Lewisboro. Whereas the town board wishes to foster a spirit and atmosphere within the Lewisboro community that embraces the LGBTQIA+ community celebration of diversity and acceptance of all gender identities. And whereas the town board has determined that this is vital, that it is vital, there's a typo there, has determined that it is vital that Lewisboro's LGBTQIA+ residents feel that their rights are equal and protected in their hometown community. And whereas organized LGBTQIA+ Pride events are a proactive step the town can take to assist in the creation and improvement of such diversity and acceptance among its residents and within the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lewisboro hereby designates the month of June as LGBTQIA+ Pride Month. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the formation of a task force for the purposes of coordinating community events in Lewisboro in honor, recognition, and celebration of the LGBTQIA+ community, as well as advising the town board as to the scheduling and conducting of such events. And be it further resolved that Councilwoman Jane Crimmins is hereby designated as liaison to the reference task force. And be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the expenditure of the sum up to $1,000 for all purposes in furtherance of this declaration. Resolution offered by me, seconded by Dan, and looks like we'll be going to a roll call.
Okay, I suggest we split this into two motions. One for everything except the money and another one for the money. I would like to propose that we accept everything except the money. Can I get a second, Rich?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I would like to make a motion to allocate $1,000 to, who am I giving it to?
That's for up to $1,000 in support of the activities of the.
Okay. Dan, will you second that?
I will.
Discussion, all in favor? I'm
Aye.
in favor, Dan's in favor, I need one other.
Oh, I'm in favor.
I thought you might be. Okay, that's also passed. Thanks.
Vote, were you registering no votes on that part?
Okay, we can register no votes on it. That's you and I assume Tony.
Yeah, again, just because of what I went through with the Veterans Advisory Committee, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rachel.
All
thank
right.
you kindly.
Well,
Thank you, Rachel.
I said, Rachel, thank you kindly.
oh, thank you, Rachel.
It was lovely to
Thanks,
have
Rachel.
you.
And for a motion in front of the town board, that was very civil. Let's go to a resolution approving, a resolution approving Kellogg Sessions Agreement for MS4 compliance certification and annual report. This is something we do annually and have to do annually, otherwise we get into terrible trouble. And it costs us, oh, for heaven's sake, Peter, here it is.
$2,000.
5,200, yes.
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed. Thank you, Rich.
It's
And
apples
that's-
to apples from year to year on this?
Sorry?
It's apples to apples from year to year. It's just another.
Yes,
Okay.
because they do, I think, 20% of the town each year. So it's a 5-year type thing.
But this is within our budget for that.
Yes.
We allow for this. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to accept that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next one is, we would like to, the next one is about illicit discharge detection and elimination. Stormwater outfall inspection and GIS mapping. And it's 3,000, it's 7,650, and this is again, what?
It's required under the terms of the general permit.
Yes, it is required.
This is the actual update.
These actually
Yeah.
physical
The
field inspections
outfalls
for the
and all that.
outfalls, just to see where the retrofits are required.
There's two components. There's a 4,500 and then there's not to exceed
Not to
3,150, right? That's okay. Move to approve.
Second, discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Resolution approving revised town fee schedule. All that this really does is add a fee of $200 for outdoor events at shopping centers.
Which is where we came out on that. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Can I have a second to insert that $200 fee in the revised town fee schedule?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Discussion regarding a turtle crossing on routes 35 and somehow I missed this out, and on Spring Street. This, in effect, would have the town put signs at either end of Spring Street warning people that it's a turtle crossing area for the next 2 miles. The resolution would also have me write a letter to the state to ask them to do the same thing on Route 35 from one end of Spring Street to the other. It's been proposed to me by Heather Jorgensen and Carol Gomez Citron, who are vets and who is a vet, and the other one, but they're both, in fact, animal lovers, obviously, and they have a particular appreciation of turtles, in part because they are, when they are being hit by cars, they get cracked shells, and they die a very slow and painful death.
Peter, I don't mean to interrupt, but I see that Carol Gomez has her hand up.
Oh, she does?
Yes.
Oh, Carol, would you like to propose this?
Carol, I'm asking you to.
Hi, yes, I would. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Carol Gomez Citron, and I'm a resident of South Salem. And every spring, the annual turtle migration begins. It's a common sight in the neighborhood, especially on Spring Street, which seems to be a popular turtle crossing area. I personally always break for these beautiful prehistoric creatures. Some of the more common turtles that you will encounter are the snapping turtles, red-eared sliders, painted turtles, and mud turtles, which we all enjoy seeing in our lakes. Why does it happen? Well, the male turtles are looking for females, and the females are searching for nesting sites. It may take 10 years for a turtle to reach the breeding age. It then takes 120 days for the turtle eggs to hatch. And it's such a shame to see a large turtle in the road with a cracked shell. Unfortunately, they commonly choose the areas near our lakes and marshlands. Once the eggs are laid, the turtles go back to the lakes, but are then susceptible to the road hazards. So please be aware of their presence and try to avoid them at all costs, because once their shell is cracked, they will die a long and slow and painful death. As quoted from the DEC, careless drivers are one reason that all 11 species of New York land turtles, and I won't name them all, are in decline, but the snappers, the mud turtles, the common map turtles, and of course the paints. Heather and I are asking that the town approves a turtle crossing sign on Spring Street in South Salem. We do realize that it'll probably be very difficult to get a sign on Route 35 because it's a state road, but we would be happy to have a sign on Spring Street. This will make drivers aware of the turtles' potential presence on our roads and also be a charming reminder to all residents that we care about our wildlife and our turtles. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we want to pursue a sign on 35?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll ask DOT.
I'd like to have signs on both roads for 2 reasons. One, it will help preserve the turtle population. And secondly, it may do more than we've done so far to reduce speeds on both roads.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any knowledge of this being done on any New York State roads to date? That would be interesting to know.
I believe it has been done. And I'm assuming that, Carol, from your picture of a turtle crossing sign. Heather? Oh, I mean Carol, sorry.
Hold on, she already put her hand down. Carol, I'm asking you to.
Hi, sorry about that. I was waiting for Heather to answer that because she has done the research on the signs.
Okay, but at the back of your letter, you have a rather charming turtle crossing sign.
Yes, I've seen those around. I haven't seen them in my community.
but it looks very legitimate.
It is.
So I'm assuming that it exists. Now, there is one thing I should warn you both about, that it is not a common sign like a stop sign. And it may take some time before they are actually, we will order them. But that doesn't mean, if we pass the motion, but that doesn't mean they will arrive the next day. And there may be some delay. And I'm a little worried that the delay will take us through April, which I know is your key month, right?
Right.
But there's not much I can do about that, except to apply as quickly as I can. Oh, it's between April and August.
Yes.
You say two different things. You say April, and then you say April through August. Well, let's assume it's April through August. And I would hope to have it up for a significant part of that period. On the state highway, I am less confident. I've got to get through a certain amount of bureaucracy. Can I have a motion to ask the highway department to put them up on Spring Street and to have me ask the state to put them up on Route 35? I know I've already talked to Peter Rippinger and he's happy enough to go ahead with this.
So moved.
And we can also ask the chief. He actually had mentioned using the electronic sign that we have.
Okay, fine.
Potentially, that's another option.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Incidentally, one of the reasons I talked about delay is because I have already talked to the state and that was their biggest problem. And I've already talked to Peter Ripp, who didn't realize it might take a long time, but they're the same signs. So I don't think he will get them much faster than the state will.
Thank you.
Next, is George Scott in the audience?
I believe he is. George? We're going to ask you to unmute, George.
Hello, this is George Scott. I'm a citizen of Lewisboro. I'm representing the Lewisboro Garden Club, and I'm asking for two approvals tonight. The first is we would like to investigate the possibility of creating a native plant field and possibly a meadow garden at the triangle, very large triangle bordered by Boughton and Post Office roads. All we're asking at this point is feasibility. We do believe it's possible, but we're not sure. We want to check this out, what's there, remove any invasives that may be there, check out the conditions, bring in a couple of experts in addition to our own people to look at this. We'd also like to pull and to smother poison ivy, no chemicals, of course, in the first year. This would be during 2021. If the garden club does find this is doable, we would come back to the board with a proposal and a drawing on what we would like to do. But it would all be native garden. It would be a lot of work. It's probably the largest project the garden club has ever undertaken. Maybe Golden Roads is too. But this would be a long-term project. And at this point, all we're asking is to remove invasives, to investigate it, to smother the poison ivy. And if this is viable, to come back to the town board, probably next year, with a plan to develop it.
George, my only caution about this is that is not always an area where it is easy to see traffic coming from both directions. And we need to be careful that we do not obstruct the view of traffic, of the traffic crossing you as you come to.
Yes, that's absolutely correct, Peter. And we've approached the highway department for their opinion on this. And they do have a requirement that we don't plant anything within 15 feet of the roadside, particularly at the corners. And we are fine with this.
Okay.
And we're actually currently working with the highway department on this. So everything that, if we do find this is feasible, we would come back with that in mind and working with the highway department on this.
Thanks, George. Do you
Peter,
want to go
do we
on
wanna
to the next one?
Oh, Peter, do we want to consider waiving ACARC fees on this one?
Yes, but I will do it.
And approval?
Oh, okay, yes. We'd better separate them then. I would like a motion to approve the Garden Club's request to explore feasibility of creating native plant field/meadow at Boughton and Post Office Roads Triangle and waiving any fees.
So moved.
Or approval? What about ACARC approval?
What did it? Oh, fees. Oh, you want to waive their approval, not just
Yeah.
fees?
I asked if we wanted to consider that.
Okay.
Fees is nice too. We could do both. I was just. Yes, I was asking about fees and approval.
No, I don't think I can waive approval because it's right in the middle of a historic district.
Fair enough.
Yes, we have, just so that you know, we have already approached the chairman of ACRAC.
How surprising.
And they're, as far as the feasibility, and they're on board with this, at least the chair is. So we're trying to involve everyone that we can in this. This is a big area and we want to do it right.
Great.
But I would, Jane, I'm sorry, I'm prepared to exempt them on fees, waive fees, but they do have sort of an absolute right in the historic areas of town.
Yeah, we're not requesting that we waive approval. That's not part of our proposal.
Okay. Did you?
So
I proposed it. Can I get a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Do you want to
One
move
thing-
on to Fox Valley, George?
Yes, I would. One thing I would like to say, though, there is a lot of poison ivy there, and we would be smothering it with wood chips if we decide to go forward on this. I just want everybody to know, there'd be little piles of wood chips here and there in there, which some people may consider unsightly, but that's the way to do it if you don't want to poison, and we certainly don't want to poison the land.
Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah, moving on to Fox Valley. I believe you have the map that I sent, the Google map.
Yes.
It shows we are interested in planting 3,000 daffodils here, assuming that the COVID restrictions, state and CDC and so forth allow it. And the little area shown here, which is at the entrance to Fox Valley Park and contiguous to Indian Hill Road. If for some reason, COVID restrictions are still in place, we would have a much smaller planting, not involving the community, just the Lewisboro Garden Club like we did last year. And that's what we're asking for. The date would be November 6th, and it would be 3,000 daffodils.
I'd like to commend you for this one, George, because I think we've been trying for some time to make Golden Roads present in Golden's Bridge, and it has not been easy.
That is absolutely correct. It's hard to find sun in that hamlet. And
well, I get comments about it at home. All right, I'd like to propose a resolution approving the Garden Club's request to plant daffodils at the entrance to Fox Valley. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Dana has already approved this, correct, George?
Yes, we've talked to her about this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually,
Thank you, George.
just reminded me, Dana had a request on something, which I don't know if is part of the agenda.
It's not, but if you want me to elaborate on it, I could.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, very quickly. Dana, through the Open Space and Preserves Committee, is asking approval for a drone flight over the marsh that used to be the Mill River. Beavers have moved in there, and we're happy to see them. It's flooded some of our trails, but that's fine. what we know where their dam is. We would like to send up a drone just to see where their hut is. We've been unable to locate it, and we may take a picture of it and maybe put it on the kiosk, or definitely put it in there so that all the hikers that are there know what's going on and why the flooding is happening. The beavers are here. We have to accept that, and that's fine. We just like to see where their hut is.
Yeah.
George, I thought you'd already done that.
No, we know where their dam is, but we don't know where their hut is. It's really more curiosity.
Okay.
But the only way we can do that is to send up a drone and photograph it.
Okay. I'd like to propose we approve who is it? The Garden Club's proposal, not the Garden Club, the Trails Committee's proposal to use a drone to map the habitat of the beavers at Leon Levy.
And I had corresponded with Greg that we can do this. We're fine on that point.
Yes, OSPEC, this has already been discussed at OSPEC, Open Space and Preserves Committee, and we're fine with it, our committee.
I meant a town attorney. We confirmed that we can do that with them.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
There's actually a specific provision in that waiver of the code
Yes, it's
written in there.
To us.
Yes.
the code makes it absolutely clear we can do whatever we like.
Okay. You need a second on this?
Yes.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I thought I could get you laughing with that comment, Greg.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to propose a resolution.
Thanks, George.
Thanks, George.
Sorry?
Just said thanks to George.
Oh, thank you, George, as
Thanks,
ever.
George.
We're just about to go into your glory season. I'd like to propose a resolution approving City Carting Inc.'s application for a license to collect and dispose of refuse and recyclables. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd like,
Need to correct the form, residential on page 2. Typo.
residential where?
Page 2 in the application.
Oh,
All
the,
right.
the heading for that section, residential, yeah, misspelled,
Oh, just because it's spelt wrong?
residential.
Yes, okay. Janet, it's IAL rather than the other way around.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
He does this to me the whole time. Don't think you're being picked out as special.
That was pre-Janet, so I will correct it.
Okay.
No big deal.
Okay, I wanted to go ahead and discuss the wetlands law revision. As you may be aware, there has been, quite honestly, a huge backlog in requests for permits at the building department. And one thing, and Tony led a meeting with Jan and Joe and myself to figure out if there was anything we could do to reduce the length of the backlog. And the result was Jan proposing to make changes in the wetlands law, which would allow certain things to go forward without a permit from Jan. At the moment, any disturbance of the ground requires a permit from Jan. This seems a bit excessive and unnecessary. So Jan proposed that we exclude the installation of sheds not exceeding 144 square feet in footprint, located within the wetland buffer area, provided that no tree removal or installation of utilities is proposed, and the maximum cut or fill is limited to no more than an increase or decrease of 2 feet from the elevation of existing grade. Secondly, he proposed that no environmental application questionnaire has to be filled in for the installation of emergency generators and associated trenching within the wetland buffer area, but not including the installation of underground propane tanks. The next one, he proposed that the removal of underground storage tanks be exempted that.
Fuel storage tanks.
Okay, what did I say?
You just
Water?
said storage tanks.
Okay. That may seem to be rather major, except for the number of people who already inspect when you remove an underground fuel storage tank. You have licensed inspectors left, right, and center. And we really saw no need to add an environmental questionnaire. The next one, construction of a deck, porch, or fence accessory to a single-family residence and located within the wetland buffer area, utilizing hand-dug support posts, providing there is no machine activity or grading and excess fill is removed or spread under deck, porch, or fence and stabilized. That will not cure the problem in building, but I think it will make a pretty large difference. Let me explain the extent of the problem. At the moment, there are 79 applications pending data entry. That's a heck of a lot, particularly if you're somebody who is trying to get something done and you have to get that application reviewed for code compliance. And if we could get rid of some of those, maybe we can reduce the length of the queue.
Do we have any idea historically how the percentage of permit applications these things will address? Any idea? Is this like 10 or 15% or something like that?
I don't know, truthfully.
Okay.
I quite honestly, I've reached the point where almost anything which will reduce that line by a few is a good thing, because the number of the number of complaints I'm getting is huge. And the number of comments I'm getting is even greater. Comments like, I had a roof redone. And when I went to deliver the permit to the guy, to the contractor, I got a comment, which was, how the heck did you get it in this time? Normally it takes a month. And then he smiled and said, I think I know why you got it in 3 days. That's not good. It was such a simple permit that we need to speed things up for the benefit of the people we serve.
So we're adding 4 components, 4 categories that are not going to require a permit going forward.
Yes, not require an environmental questionnaire. They're going to require a permit, not an environmental questionnaire.
Okay.
Yes, the applicant still needs to file with the building department.
Okay, we have a numbering issue there. It's just 12, 13, 14, 15 on those.
What?
Yeah, that on the document, there's the number 14 needs to be.
Oh, okay.
15 needs
Sorry.
to be 14. Yeah.
Yeah, we skipped 14. We didn't like the number 14.
Are we looking to adopt this now? Or
Yes, no.
You need a hearing.
We are looking to authorize me to send this
to planning,
to
right?
county planning,
CAC
town planning, and CAC.
and 239M and county too.
Yeah, I said that
Oh,
first.
sorry.
so moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
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 So this is not the end of your efforts to beef up
It's a
our
start.
capabilities, right?
No,
We
it
have
isn't, Dan,
more
and we've got an
proposals.
executive session item.
Great.
But this can be done in open session, and I'd like to get it done, and I'd like to move it out for approvals in those various boards and committees. The next, I will set a public hearing on that when I've checked with the committee and board to find out when they can reasonably get back to us. I know Jan Anderson is very anxious to get back to us pretty quickly. And granted that, I don't want to set a public hearing giving the amount of time it might take, because that will be 60 days from now. So instead of that, I'd like to leave it until I've discussed it with Jan and John Wolfe in more detail and make sure when they can get back to us, if you don't mind. Next, I'd like to propose a resolution adopting the police reform and reinvention plan. This has been quite a long road. Not everybody agreed, not everybody got all of their comments inserted, but there was an overwhelming majority in our last meeting in support of it.
In the last police reform meeting you're referring
Yes.
to? Okay.
Who wants to comment?
I'll go ahead and comment first. I'm sure that other board members will want to speak, but I just want to thank the committee for the time and work that went into that. I think that it was a long process, and I think that it was sounds like it was impactful, especially that last meeting that you were able to have in person. There seemed to be some length to that meeting and some really decent conversation coming out of it from some of the people that I spoke with afterwards. And so, you know, I just applaud us for having the conversation. I think that it's not easy. And I think that I see surrounding municipalities having the same conversation, and I'm particularly proud of the conversation that's coming out of Lewisboro. And then I just want to give a note to the training. I know that Dave is open to all kinds of training, and I know that he's developed relationships with people on the committee. And I just want to be really clear that some of the training that I think the community is asking for is on top of the anti-bias training and on top of the TASER training, and that training, that those trainings are implemented by the police department. You know, it's handed down from the state. It's a government program. So I think some of the training that we might be talking about might be more like a community organized type thing. I think it might not even exist yet, which is why we're reinventing and reimagining. And so I am, you know, talking with people around Westchester County, Reverend Kim McNair, who's on the Bedford committee, the policing committee, and their diversity committee. She's also a Reverend at Antioch Baptist Church. A police officer and some police officers in surrounding municipalities who are interested in engaging in discrimination training at the community level and what that might look like. So I think there's even an opportunity to kind of develop this from the community. And I think that our police department, from the way that they have responded to community members who have reach out to them via myself. Like, should I reach out? Should I talk to Dave, Chief Alfano? And I say, yes, of course, he's very open to that. And he would really love to hear from you. And so I have the strong hunch that Chief Alfano will be really open to those kinds of ideas, especially if it's listening to community members. But I just wanted to just kind of clarify that point, that I think that that's a little bit of what people are looking for, on top of the training they get from the police academy and from the state.
I'd kind of like to, I had a meeting, not anything to do with Lewisboro particularly, but with Mel Padilla and the New Rochelle commissioner. And also, Dave Ryan of Pound Ridge. But at the end of that meeting, I thought that Mel Padilla might be a very good person to bring in. He's self-evidently a member of a minority, and he is exceptionally articulate.
Right.
And I think one of the difficult things with this kind of training is if you're not careful, an officer, by the time he goes through the 4th session on this, his eyes glaze over because he's human. And this happens to everybody, that at a certain point, your eyes glaze over because you're not hearing anything new. And that's why I think it's a good idea to try to bring new blood in occasionally.
And then I also just wanted to mention that, what was the program called, Peter, that we went to down in Terrytown? Books with Badges?
Yes.
I think that could be a great thing to connect on and see if that's something we could do here.
Books with Badges.
Books and Badges, that's what it's
Books
called.
and Badges. Okay.
Combine literary goals with policing goals. We drove into the Terrytown Police Department. There were all kinds of people, lots of police officers, all different colors from different municipalities. Terrytown's a little bit more diverse than we are, but still, people from different police officers from different municipalities also came. And it was real joyful in there. And you rolled down your window with your masks on, and a woman who's involved with the program came and gave my daughter a book, and talked to her about art and the importance of, girl power, and, just gave her like a little 60-second confidence booster. And she said hi to some police officers, and it was a really good experience for both of us. So it's just something that I think is worth looking into. Hi, Dave.
How are you?
I'm good. I've talked with a lot of people who have come your way, and people have been really happy to do so. And I assume you just heard me saying, I think you'd be really open to any kind of, if say, by some miracle, Reverend Kim McNair and Ron Ross got together and wanted to sit down and do a 1 or 2 hour discussion with you in training, I think you'd be really open to that.
Absolutely, 100%. Once again, I'm constrained with budget.
Yeah.
I mean, it all started with defund the police, and it goes to show you what we actually need in order to get this training. And in order to, reach out to the community. I mean, I have no line in my budget this year for, hosting events and stuff like this. And I'm also constrained on part-time police hours. I need to still fill my shifts. They're still limited on weekly hours, and they're limited on what they could do for the year.
Yeah.
So
what do you mean by it all started with defund the police?
I'm sorry?
You said it all started with defund the police?
No, I'm saying there was a big push of, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
And not here in Lewisboro.
No, but that was like the general national
kind of, there's still that national movement where they're doing defund the police, right? And they're having some success in different larger cities, but we're talking about a really different thing here in Lewisboro. So I just wanted You know,
Yeah,
we
but
always
when
out those local and national conversations. So I just.
But that was also brought up in Lewisboro is what I'm getting at too, when we first went over this in the beginning meetings. So
I don't remember that as much as actually a really big fund the police message when that first committee meeting. I don't remember anybody bringing up the defund the police, but I remember people coming up and a lot of people voicing fund the police, which we have increased the budget.
it's, you know, it's great both ways. And I think we've got a lot out of this, you know, between Governor Cuomo's executive order. I think this is a fantastic opportunity, you know, that we had a committee, we all spoke what we went over, detailing the specifics, which is in the plan that everyone has read. You know, I think it's going to make Lewisboro Police a better police department all around. So
I
Thank
think
you so much. I agree.
this whole process was worthwhile, if only for the 7 recommendations at the very end of the document. There's no need for me to read them because you can all read, but they are a significant step.
You want me to put them up on the screen, Peter?
And you do that?
Of course.
Because you know what my ability is on the screen. Yes, those 7 items are, in my mind, a significant step forward for our police department. Thank you, Dave, because it was really a lot of your work which produced that.
And once again, Gene, going back to your question, I'm going to try to do more if I can. You know, I'm going to have to reevaluate the budget come October, November, and see what I have left. And then I'll be able to plan even better for the following year with more training.
Yeah. And I think that some of the training, honestly, I think it could be conversational. You know, it can start that way. It doesn't have to be like a formal, you know, I know there are budgetary issues and budgetary constraints and the juxtaposition of the national defund the police movement and you know, married with our local issues of needing 2 officers on duty all the time for, you know, minimum coverage issues. It is different. And so I appreciate all of that, but I think it really could, you know, just look like community conversations that you've been really open to so far. So, yeah.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we approve.
Dan wants to talk.
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I'm just saying I would second the praise for the efforts everybody made. This is the first time we've done anything like this in town. And so it's obviously, you know, a big step forward for everybody. I would say in reading through the document, you know, it gets the job done, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more nudge on the narrative. You know, I know that the discussions on race have been you know, have been held and going back and forth, and you know, there's a lot of sense that we are not, you know, some other place where this might be a more highlighted issue. I think we could have made a mention in the narrative in the beginning, just like, you know, this is part of the dialogue here. And we realized as Lewisboro, you know, that we should be a part of that conversation, just some kind of mention. But I think this is just a starting point as far as I can see, right? Well,
yes, he's got to write an entire darn manual.
Well, right. I mean, there's the manual. I mean, there's other areas that may be outside of the police scope, you know, in terms of public security and public health that we want to talk more about, whether it be, you know, resources for violence in the home or whatever. So, you know, I guess this helps to launch that dialogue. I also noticed that in the governor's order, one of the things they urge you to do is actually have, you know, explicitly state what it is you're asking the police to do, which obviously seems like an obvious thing in some sense, but we could have actually had a kind of a mission statement up there, because that'll give you a standard to always look back and say, are we doing this?
So Dan, in my policies and procedures, I'm going to have a mission statement and all that. So I'm going to write everything up, and then ultimately the town board's going to approve policies and procedures.
Just wanted to thank the supervisor and Chief Alfano for their leadership, and all the members of the committee who put in a lot of time and a lot of hard work, as well as all the community input we got over. I think we started this back in September. There's a 6 to 7 month period that we've been involved in. It was a terrific exercise. We learned what a great police department we have, and this is where we are at this point in time. We have opportunities to improve over time, and we have leadership in our police department who is open and amenable to making progress and looking forward and doing whatever he can to make it even a better department. I appreciate everybody's efforts on this.
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks for everyone for the efforts, and I think this does serve. It's probably going to be more a fluid thing, right? So this serves as a good basis to implement future improvements and changes and things. So I think it's going to be an ongoing dialogue, but I think this forms a good basis.
Yeah, I hope we have revisit it at the end of the year or whenever, just to take stock and how things have gone.
Right.
All right. As you know, we have to have this in Albany by the 1st. Otherwise, we lose all our state funding as a town. That may not sound like very much, but if we lose CHIPS, we've got a real problem. And let alone AIM. AIM is not so big for us, but CHIPS is.
Motion to approve the Town of Lewisboro Police Department Reform and Reinvention Plan.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. There's another public comment period. I think my main contribution to the public comment period is it's maybe time to go down to 1 public comment period versus 2. But however, I've got 4 people who are waiting to speak at least. Janet, do you want to start?
Sure, yep, and just as a reminder, please state your hamlet, and you're given 2 minutes with a 30-second warning. And I will start with Rebecca Gordon.
Thank you. Rebecca Gordon in Lewisboro. While you guys were in public hearing discussing the boiler earlier, the air monitor on Flintlock Ridge Road was in a dangerous, distressing, alarming range of 214 to 243. There are 20 to 25 homes within a half mile of the source of the offender, with at least 60 to 75 residents, possibly more. And among those residents are individuals with existing respiratory illness, heart disease, and cancer that are all impacted negatively by toxic air quality, the type that existed this evening and has for months. So I love that we talked this evening. The topics included health and well-being of our community, trees, water, flowers, turtles. I find all those topics heartwarming, and they really speak to me as someone who wants sustainability and healthy living. So I have 2 questions. First, Rich Sclarin suggested that residents hire a lawyer for a TRO or lawsuit. Why can't the town lawyers bring a suit against the offender who is harming residents? And second, last week, the board discussed and seemed in favor of adding a sunset clause to the regulations you were passing on the boiler in town, but it wasn't included or mentioned this evening. Can someone explain why? That's all.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca.
Is anyone going to respond, or it's just that I ask questions and then
Typically in the
Is there a way
public
someone could answer
comment
that?
period.
Pardon?
Typically in the public comment period, you make a public comment. There's typically no back and forth.
But is there a possibility that someone could answer that? Or if not during the public forum right now, that someone would be able to get back to residents to answer that? Because this is a big issue that concerns the health and well-being of so many residents. And I know it's typical to just make a comment, but I'd really love to hear from the board, because it really is, it's a safety issue.
Possibly an email, if you wanted to email the board, that's typically what's been done in the past.
If you want to call me tomorrow morning, I will answer you. We've already answered that tonight, quite honestly. But if you want to call me tomorrow morning, you may.
You can email all of us, Rebecca, and I'm sure one of us will get back to you as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking. It's been a long meeting and it was a lot of information.
Thank you.
We understand the gravity of the situation, and we've implemented something that will make the outdoor wood burner not be allowed after March 31st. Okay, so that's our first step. Okay.
Okay.
And Rebecca, I do have visibility into that air monitoring. Stacy shared that with me, so we'll stay on top of that.
Okay, thank you.
Especially now that we have a code in the books that we can refer to.
And perhaps you can even use the drone that was going to be used, that was discussed earlier, to hover over the offending area so that you can get even better pictures. Just a suggestion to help you guys further.
That's a really good idea. I'm laughing. I don't mean to laugh. That's a really good idea.
That drone is private.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Now I'm asking, the next one in my line here is Mary Shaw. I'm asking you to unmute, Mary.
Hi, Mary Shaw Vista. You might consider adding a sign down on Puddin Hill Road for the turtles, because there is a crossing there as well. I also want to say thank you for the statement on the LGBTQ, because everyone should feel safe and welcome in our community. And I won't take the full 2 minutes, but thank you for the work that you do.
Mary, will you send me a diagram showing where they cross on Puddin Hill?
I sure will.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'm asking Jimbo to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Jimbo from Vista. I would like to speak about the clear violation of Town of Lewisboro, Chapter 18, Ethics, Code of Section 18-5, General Standards. 3 board members tonight have violated Section F as in Frank. And I quote, "Each town employee shall endeavor to pursue a course of conduct which will not raise suspicion among the public that he or she is likely to be engaged in acts that are in violation of his or her trust." 3 board members violated the ethic code by harassing a tax-paying citizen in her 2-minute speech and publicly allowed another citizen to slander and defame her reputation without a verbal response condemning this behavior. A reminder, the Bill of Rights, especially the First Amendment, does not stop nor end at the border of Katona, Lewisboro. And by the way, Dan, you ain't no Abe Lincoln in that log cabin. Good night.
Okay, next I'm asking Harry Heffler to unmute.
Hi there, my name is, hi, you
Hi.
all can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. My name is Harry Heffler. I'm from Vista, and I'm a senior at John Jay High School. I'm also the president of the Sexuality and Gender Alliance, and I'm ecstatic to work with Pride Month Task Force. But tonight I want to focus on something else. There's so much polarization in our town. We are frustrated and angry, regardless of what side we're on. It's not my place to say racism doesn't exist because I am white and haven't been discriminated against based off race. Just as it's not a straight person's place to deny the existence of homophobia because they haven't been persecuted for their sexuality. No one is listening to each other. And as an 18-year-old with a lot of stress, anxiety, and empathy, it pains me to see my elders fighting. It's overwhelming. After one meeting, I cried at the hard-hitting resolution that Lewisboro is not this fully safe, inclusive place I thought it was. We're making progress, and I recognize that, but we still have a long way to go. Please, for the sake of sanity, choose kindness, patience, and validation. Everyone's feelings are valid. We have so much anxiety in our personal lives, whether it's getting your kids to school or paying bills, or for students, getting homework done or the dreaded college process, or for everyone being heard at this meeting. Everything is piling in our brains, putting so much pressure on our skulls. Notice how much tension you're holding. Stop and take a breath. In through your nose and out through your mouth. You are valid. Everyone is valid. It is inappropriate to invalidate the needs of others. Treat those the way you want to be treated. Listen to each other, no matter how torturous it may seem, no matter if you disagree with someone or if you agree with someone, or even if it's so-so. If someone tries to provoke you, don't give them what they want. Choose kindness, and eventually they will run out of fuel and return your kindness. If I still have some time, I would like to quickly.
Unfortunately, the 2 minutes is up, Harry.
Thank you so much.
But we thank you for your comments. Next, I'm asking Dean Travellino to unmute. Dean, you have 2 minutes.
Did I get there?
You got there.
Yes.
Okay. Harry, very nice sentiments. Thank you for mentioning them. I want to thank the board for listening to the public and reevaluating aspects of the tree ordinance. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm sorry if I'm redundant about a statement, but I'm just wondering about the special character overlay district. If you haven't done anything about it, urge you to just take a quick look at it, because it is an environmental regulation, and I'm not sure that treating people in special character zones differently than the normal 3 tree a year rule, that it goes down to 1 tree a year in special character zones. From an environmental standpoint, I'm not sure that's a rationally based exercise of your power. But more importantly, I want to urge you to also look at the zoning code, because when I was reading it the other day, I didn't realize this until recently, that section 22031B9, 22031B9 puts into ACARC's jurisdiction, when you make an application to special character zone, any cutting of any tree 10 inches or larger. So, and I may be wrong about it, I'm just asking you to look at it. It looks like if you're in a special character zone, you need 2 permits and not even 1. So I'm not sure you really need to make that distinction, or why you would in general. And if you feel you want to make that distinction, it's your prerogative, you're the elected officials. Please look at that and see how that works with the current zoning code as it applies to special character zones in that B9. That's all. Thanks for reworking the ordinance.
All right, thanks, Dean. Next, I'm asking Leah Pizer to unmute.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just want to say very excited about the LGBTQIA and Pride Month. I think that's amazing. I do stand with Rich Squaren though, and that I just don't see why there should be any public funding going to that. But if there is, and hey, that's cool, because it's a beautiful thing to learn about everything. Just wanted to know who we get in touch with, because with the Asian hate right now, which I think is probably devastating all of us, we should probably consider a committee for that. We should probably still consider a committee on anti-Semitism, since that has still been prevalent and one of the few things in this town where we've had real examples of that. I know that there's been a surge with Mexican being targeted, so maybe we should do a day, some sort of day for that too. There's like a million things I'd love to see. So how do we do that and get the $1,000? I'm sure I'll reach out to one of you tomorrow so we can really show everybody that we're there for, you know, all different cultures. I think the one thing everybody needs to be aware of is that when you start listing things out, the things you leave out become very prominent. And we do want to make sure that people understand that this is a town for everyone, not the 10 people groups we list and the 3 we don't. And lastly, we will never sell homes here. We will never get people to move here if we are not, we can't provide healthy water and safe air. So, you know, maybe start balancing getting things like that done. So I'll reach out to someone tomorrow about how I go about forming those committees. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leah. I'm asking Jeremy Zittimer to unmute. Jeremy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi. Actually, I want to take a second and just echo what Leah was just talking about, how powerful I think it would be for our community to rally against various forms of discrimination. I know that our neighboring town in Bedford actually lowered all of their flags to half-mast in honor of I guess you could say in grief or in respect to the anti-Asian violence that occurred in Atlanta earlier this week. And I know that the diverse communities really appreciated that. I love that Leah mentioned anti-Semitism as part of that larger picture of discrimination. I think I love this focus on kind of bringing everybody together and thinking about all these forms of discrimination that are faced in Lewisboro and everywhere else. I think also that it's a perfectly fine thing for the town to put money behind all of these endeavors. You know, I think if we wanted to have something similar for a similar group for support for Asian members of our community and fund that, I just want to say, just on record, I think that that's a wonderful idea, and I really love the energy that that's coming forward about things like that. I would be remiss if I didn't spend just a minute talking about how much the conversation about funding for the LGBT Pride Month events pained me, though. It harkened back to these experiences that I had as a closeted young boy in high school, and where I was living in a nation where I was not allowed to get married, where people could harass me with no repercussion or consequence when I walked down the street, whether they knew about my sexuality or not. And there's a reason that governments now and government bodies need to provide legitimate financial support for groups like this, because they've been active in the discrimination of these groups for many, many years. And I'm happy to talk about this more. I want to respect my time. But thank you all so much for ultimately passing this and for having this conversation.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy. And the last person I have here is Letitia Stapleton. And I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, it's me again. I'm just want to make the record clear. I'm new to this, but from what I'm seeing, what's really hurting my feelings was really making me feel a certain type of way. So I'm sorry if I made anybody else feel some kind of way, but I needed to express that to let you know what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, and hopefully we can come together and resolve this. I don't want to have any animosity. I don't want to have any problems. But again, you need to hear my voice and you need to hear where I'm coming from and how I'm feeling. So if anybody has any questions or any concerns about what I'm saying or how I'm saying it or what I'm saying, you can always contact me or, you know, whatever's possible. But I just need to know that you need to hear my voice. I am here. I'm not going anywhere. And I just want to feel safe and secure and not be ridiculed, not be bad mouth, not be put down, and trying to make your point across or however you make me feel. I've watched this since January and how certain people are just coming off. I'm not naming any more names, but how certain people are coming off and the things that they are saying really makes me uncomfortable. So you should get to know me. Maybe I should get to know you, but I just didn't like how things were being brought out. Thank you for that.
All right, thank you, Letitia. We do have a couple more hands up. Marissa Beatty, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, I'm actually back to the water. I just wanted to clarify, Tony, I know that you're our liaison, so I just wanted to clarify. Back in October, we were told that we had 5 wells and that 1 was not working. And that was prior to the PFOSs. Does that mean that right now we are down? If we had 4 then, does that mean we're down to 3 working wells at for the Oak Ridge Water District? And if it does that mean that we can have a discussion or another public forum with the residents of Oak Ridge? Because I know that we have spoken out in the past about pausing any further building and development in the Oak Ridge Commons shopping center, the building of the new condos, as well as transforming, I believe it was Brother Vic's, into residentials, and then as well as the car wash that is not currently in yet at the gas station due to still not having a stable water system. If we could just put that back on the shelf for us to discuss with the Oak Ridge Water District. If you can get back to me privately, that would be great, Tony.
I'll do that, Marissa.
But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up again publicly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And that's it for hands.
All right, thank you all. I'd like to close that public session, and I'd like to move on to approving claims. Do I have a second on approving claims?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, polling the board. Dan?
Nothing tonight. Thanks.
Jane?
I think that I have so much to say, but I really want to thank Harry for his words. And I don't feel this is the first time that a young person has given us feedback. And I would like the young people in our town to be able to come to our meetings and not have that increase their anxiety, but increase their enthusiasm for civic engagement. So I really look forward to working with everybody here and everybody moving forward to make that happen.
Tony?
You're on mute, Tony.
I was muted. Sorry about that. From Parks and Rec, the scavenger egg hunt, which is set for April 3rd. Registration starts tomorrow at 3 p.m. So if you are interested, make sure you register with Parks and Rec. Just an update on the LPD, the tasers and body cameras. We, at the last meeting, I said that we were going to go back to Axon, who is the supplier, manufacturer, about getting a additional discount. I'm happy to say that with the help of Sergeant Llewellyn, we did get a discount off the first year price of another $2,400, and the order has been placed. And thank you, Harry, for speaking up tonight. That was very. It's great to see young folks involved in engaging with our meeting. So thank you very much.
Rich?
I just want to thank all the members of the public for their continued constructive input. I've been reaching out to a lot of people in my first 3 months on the job, and I think it's been great and helpful and challenging, and looking forward to keep on keeping on.
I have nothing to add, which I haven't said already. So I'd like to propose that we adjourn into executive session to discuss.
Peter, could you mention the date of the next meeting?
Oh, sorry, I hate to do that. The next town board meeting will be Monday, April the 12th, 2021 at 7:30 via remote access. Is that better, Jenna?
Very good, Peter.
I would like to propose that we adjourn into executive session to discuss a personnel issue.
So moved.
Discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.